Hey guys, and welcome to the fourth series in my series of limited review videos for Shadows over Innistrad. So far I've done reviews of white, black, and blue, and now we move on to red. In these views I discuss what I think are the best common and uncommon cards in each color. Before I get to the list, I want to let you guys know that I'm doing a Shadows over Innistrad giveaway. Make sure you enter if you haven't yet. Anyway, let's move on to the list. So the best common, I think, for red is Breakneck Rider, who can transform into Neckbreaker. A 3-mana 3-3 isn't something red sees a whole lot. 3-mana 3-2s all the time, but actually a 3-mana 3-3, as you know if you played a fair amount of limited, is usually a pretty sizable creature for turn 3, and that's what this is. But it's not only a 3-mana 3-3, which is something that would already be, I mean, it wouldn't be anywhere close to the best uncommon, but it'd be a card that would show up in most of your red decks. But this guy can also transform and become even more of a problem. He transforms the same way all werewolves transform. If a player casts no spells, he transforms at the beginning of the next upkeep. And once he transforms, he gets +1/+0, basically, becomes a 4/3. But he also has an awesome ability where that makes it so he and all other attacking creatures get +1/+0 and trample. So in a deck that can go wide, which I think these werewolf aggro decks, the red-green deck especially, will like this, but I think basically any deck with red in it is going to have a lot of creatures, except for maybe the blue-red deck, which is more of a Spells Matter deck. But either way, the decks are going to like this, and he's a big problem. These werewolves can untransform, as all werewolves do, if someone plays 2 spells in a turn, so your opponent can try to make sure he untransforms after a turn, but you're going to get a turn in with your Neckbreaker no matter what, if a player, unless it was you who transformed your creature, I guess then you don't. But generally, you know, if you're making your opponent play differently, like play 2 spells that they wouldn't have otherwise, and all that does is make your 4/3 turn back into a 3/3, you're not going to be too upset. So he's a very good creature, probably the best red common or uncommon creature in the format, and one that you should be looking for if you're in red, and one that might even be first pickable from time to time. Anyway, I do have a honorable mention for uncommon, and that is Lightning Axe. 6 mana to do 5 damage to a creature at instant speed is already playable, albeit a little bit clunky. But this card also can cost you just 1 red if you're willing to discard a card from your hand. Since you get to make the choice, this means in this format you can discard a card with Madness to let you cast it, discard a card you need to make your Delirium get to where it needs to be, or you can just discard a land. Then you're doing 5 damage at an incredibly efficient and good level. It's not the best late game top deck, especially if, say, you're stuck on 4 or 5 lands, which can happen. But it's a very good card most of the time. And even if you draw it late, you can just wait a turn and draw away to Lightning Axe something. So Lightning Axe, very good. Breakneck Rider, though, I think is even better. So now we will move on to the commons. At number 3, I have Reduced to Ashes. Definitely a little bit of a clunky removal spell. It's not premium removal by any stretch of the imagination. Don't take it early, I would say. But like Demon's Grasp, which is sort of a close analog, it was a 5 mana spell that gave a creature -5/-5. It's a card that most red decks will probably want 1 copy of and be okay with it, because it is a pretty good removal spell. It's also relevant that it exiles stuff, because there are creatures, like there always are, that have death triggers, and there are creatures that can come back from the graveyard, and Reduced to Ashes puts an end to both of those things. And that's somewhat important. At number 2, we have another werewolf. And I'll show you both halves. Gotstaff Arsonists, which turns into Gotstaff Ravagers. The Arsonists are a 5 mana 5/4, which is another pretty efficient cost for a red creature. 5 mana for 5 power, you're probably okay with this in any deck. You know, it's a decent enough curve topper in an aggro deck. You know, you always have a few 5-drops in limited. But this guy transforms the same way all werewolves do. And when he transforms, he becomes a 6/5 with Menace. And that is a big problem, to be having to look down a 6/5 with Menace. It's not a creature you can chump block. It's a creature you have to double block and probably get 2 for 1 on. That the Menace, the pseudo-evasion it has is amazing, as is the size of the creature. And similar to the Neckbreaker, if it is forced to turn back into its human form, it's still a pretty large creature for turn 5. And I think that's very important, but I think it's also another great creature that red got, and not a surprise that they're werewolves, because that's one of the major archetypes. The red-green one likely is werewolves. At number 1, I have Fiery Temper, which probably comes as a surprise to no one who realized Fiery Temper was in the set. At a worst fail case scenario, you have to pay 3 to do 3 damage to something at instant speed, but you're perfectly okay with that. I mean, you should be anyway. It's not amazing, but it's solid. I mean, we've been playing things like Lightning Javelin recently, which costs 1 more than this for sorcery speed, but it does let you scry 1. But Fiery Temper is clearly better. But on top of that, you can actually discard this one way or another and cast it for 1, and then it becomes Lightning Bolt. And I think that's very strong. I think that Fiery Temper is a premium removal spell and one you seriously consider taking as a first pick. So there is one more card I wanted to talk about. Those are the commons that I think are the best. But there's another one I want to talk about that I think is going to be a key card and a very powerful card in one of the archetypes in the format. And it is Pyrehound. In a few days, I'll be posting my archetype overview for Shadows over Innistrad. But I'll tell you now that the blue-red archetype is basically a Spell Matters deck. It has lots of sweet spells, and it also has guys with prowess. And Pyrehound is a serious part of that deck. He's going to be an important cornerstone of it. And that's because he's a 4-mana 2/3 with Trample, who doesn't just have prowess, but he gets a +1/+1 counter anytime you play an instant or sorcery spell. He can quickly become very large in a deck with lots of good instants and sorceries and become a major problem for people. He does have to be in that specific deck to be good. I would guess, I mean, I would probably want 7+ instants or sorceries before I'd feel okay playing Pyrehound. So he's not going to be in your most aggressive decks, but he's definitely going to be a good finisher in the blue-red decks that we'll see. And he'll probably make appearances in other decks as well. Anyway, that is my limited review video for red. Those are the commons and uncommons that I think are the best. Let me know how you think I did in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.